Let's talk about how to invest your money so that you can achieve financial freedom quicker than everyone else. So guys, let's start off with the understanding that we need a budget, right? A budget is very simple, right? You take a spreadsheet, you look at what your expenses are, you tally them up, you put your expenses in there, you put your income in there and you tally it up, and you see what you will have at the end of every month, right? Very simple. That is pretty straightforward. I don't think a lot of people struggle with that. That is something that I think everyone kind of understands and really executes for the most part. So let's talk about your earning, because your earning is going to dictate how much you can invest and how quickly that money can compound and turn into passive income. So guys, your earning, I just made a video talking about making sure that you're utilizing your hours outside of your 9 to 5, because guys, your 9 to 5 is limited, right? Like, in the potential for you to make money in it is also limited, right? I mean, obviously, you can make money in your job, you can get promotions, raises, stuff like that, but the time, like how long it takes you to make a certain amount, is what could hold you back, if you put all of your eggs in that one basket. So one thing I do recommend is figuring out what side hustles you like, what side hustles you can learn. Some side hustles are very easy, right? Or you could just get a second job, work up the extra money and start to invest. But the main thing is that you increase your earning, because if you're able to year over year increase your earning, investing's simple. Like, investing doesn't really take a lot of skill. It's more so about how much you're able to see a return of investment, right? Like, because if you're not able to see a decent return of investment, then I can sit here and tell you, hey man, you can invest $50 a month or $100 a month, but I think I read like something like, because Dave Ramsey's big on like helping like just ordinary people like achieve their retirement plan, really. But he was basically saying that if you invest $100 a month, you'll be a millionaire by 65. And it's like, yeah, no shit, dude. But are we really like aiming for that? Like, of course everyone can achieve financial freedom in a peaceful life at the end of their life, but is that the goal? No, the goal is to enjoy life while we're here, right? Like, while we're young, while we're vibrant. So I want you to figure out what you can do on the side, whether it's Uber, whether it's Lyft, whether it's DoorDash, whether it's bartending, waiting tables, working security, any income that's going to help you invest more money, right? Unfortunately, a lot of people, I think it's only about 20% of people, or earners in the US make $100,000 or more. So unfortunately for most of us, right, we have to figure out other ways to make income, and then again, if you get to a point where your job is paying you $100,000 a year, okay, then you could, potentially pull back on the extra work. But in the meantime, like, that's something that you want to maximize. You don't want to wait for your job to pay you $100,000 or more a year for you to start taking your investing game seriously and start to take your life seriously. So, figure out what you can do on the side and just, again, make sure you do it consistently. If you say you're going to work, a second job, make sure you do that every week. If you're going to do Uber and Lyft, make sure you're doing that 3 to 4 days a week. Same thing with waiting tables and bartending, right? Whatever form of second job. Or again, if you're working remote, if you have some skill you can do with freelancing, just make sure you're consistent with it, right? Because it doesn't matter if you do it once every 2 weeks, right? But if you do it 3 to 4 times a week, year over year, right? Okay, then we can start to see, financial progress, with that consistency. So that's first, right? And so me, as far as investing goes, I have a 2-prong approach to investing, right? I don't have, because your standard investor is basically someone who just does one thing, right? Or some of them do a combination of things, right? Like maybe they're into index funds or they're into real estate. I propose to you, right, that you learn every possible investment game and start and execute. Right now, obviously, you want to learn one thing at a time, whether it's long-term investing, whether it's day trading, but goal is obviously to scale into things that pay you passively. Like real estate is great, Airbnb is great, but you want to start off small, right? So if you just start off with putting $250 into VOO and VW, VOO and VTI, which are the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index funds, and you just dollar cost average monthly, that's a great start. If you down the line start to learn how to day trade, right, that'll help you as well. But the point is that with your increased income and the amount of money that you're able to invest and learn how to turn into passive income, that is what's going to skyrocket your financial freedom path and make it come into fruition a lot quicker, as opposed to, again, just picking one investment game plan, right? I mean, sure, one investment game plan can work, but I think it's great that we have a combination of different assets and ways to invest that can help us skyrocket our income and really push us to our limits as far as our earning potential and financial potential goes, right? So me, like right now, I dollar cost into crypto. I haven't really lately because we're kind of coming to the end of this bull run cycle here and by the end of the year. But definitely after that bull run, like I'm gonna take a good chunk out. I'll probably take 25 to 30% out, and I'll start again dollar cost averaging into the lows, right? Because for me, like when I dollar cost average into the lows, right, that will inevitably happen once the sell off, people start to sell the highs, right, at the end of this year, then the price that I buy at the lowest, like let's say, I think Ethereum's right now like 4,000, but Ethereum's predicted to go to 11,000, right? So every bull cycle, right after the bull cycle, every big coin sees a 70% retracement. So 70% of 11,000 is what, like 2,800, I think, around there, or 70% down. So what would be left? Like 2,800 would be the price, or 3,000, right? So when that price, that'll be the low, right? So I'm gonna buy as much as I can at the low, so that as it goes up, in the next 4-year cycle, I'm making money. See, as a amateur investor early on, I didn't understand these things. I didn't understand dollar cost averaging. I didn't understand cycles. I didn't understand bear markets, liquidity cycles, right? Things like this. So as far as you investing, like there's some kick to it, like there's some nuance to it, but it's very simple, right? When you see the price really go down, you have to really understand that when the price goes down, it's not the end of the world. It's not the stock market's just going to completely like eradicate and not exist anymore, because that's what most people think when they see prices get absolutely crushed. We think the world's over, right? We humans tend to have a very what's the word? We have a very like we like to panic and like overemphasize things. Like if situations are bad, like how many people, like for example, I'm not here to debate a conspiracy theory, but how many people during COVID were like, yeah, man, like we're like talking about like storing food and shit like this. I'm not saying that none of that's, or buying ammunition or things like this, right? Like a lot of like worst case scenario possibilities, right? When the prices of stocks plummet or go down, that's when you buy. That's when either the rich people are trying to crash it for a reason so they can buy more, or that's when there's a major sell-off and people are just selling the highs that they earned. Like they're just selling the highs, right? Because they made a lot of money and they want to cash in on some of their returns, right? So you have to understand that when the stock market goes down, that's the best time to buy. When crypto's down, that's the best time to buy. When it fucking goes to zero, that's the best time to buy, because it will go back, right? It will go back up. So that's kind of like the simplest way to like invest long term, right? And you want to do this weekly and monthly. Sometimes, again, it may depend. Like sometimes you may be in a season where you're buying a lot because the prices are really low, and sometimes you may be in a season where you're not buying very much. Maybe you're just saving, right? So there's going to be seasons of saving, there's going to be seasons of investing, right? There's going to be also seasons of harvesting. But the main thing is that you have to understand that it's a long-term game with investing, and the people who are the best at it know when to invest and they know when to take out. They know when to take some of their money out because they know, oh shit, this is probably going to be a peak. So that's kind of like long-term investing in a nutshell. And I plan to invest till I'm dead, right? I'm not gonna stop anytime soon because, you know, I'm 25. So, you know, the more I invest now, the easier it'll be later. And let's talk a little bit about day trading and swing trading. So I'm not gonna go too much into like the technical parts of analysis and things like that, but simply put, when you day trade, you need to have a risk management system, right? You have to have also a trade setup. Like if you see a good setup that you like, okay, like that's perfect, because that's what's going to help you make money. But obviously trade setup comes first. Like if you're able to look at your price and see, hey, okay, you know, we've retraced back, then we've gone back up, right? Whatever your entry point is, you have to make sure that that's a good setup. Now sometimes you might be wrong, right? But for the most part, if you can, you know, see the strength of the day, whether we're bearish or we're bullish, right, for the day, you know, you'll look at the 30-minute chart. Whatever your entry point is, you have to make sure that you have a good entry point. And then as far as your risk management, like that's the name of the game, because you, like for example, like, you know, a lot of people who day trade, like they get greedy, right? Like they see the stock, they see like their trade doing very well. You know, like maybe they did a call for SPY and it did, you know, extremely well. It went up like $3 in, you know, an hour, right? The greedy person would keep holding. The person who, you know, has a somewhat of a risk management mindset would take some of that out, or maybe they would take some out if it went up $1.50. But the point is that you have to have a risk management system in place so that you don't lose money, because unfortunately speaking, day trading is risky, right? I'm not saying it's not risky. So you have to, you know, and some days, like if the market's not really moving, like some days, guys, the stock market just doesn't have a lot of liquidity and volatility, right? Like it just doesn't have a lot of motion. So during those days, right, like if you know, shit, today, you know, just really doesn't have like a lot of motion, right? And you go up 20 to 40%, take the fucking profit. Because if not, obviously it's going to go the other way, right? Because there's not a lot of volatility. So have a risk management system set up, right? And you have to see day trading just like you see long-term investing. Like all the little wins you stack, right, Monday through Friday, and you're not going to trade every day, but all of the little wins that you see, right, are compounding over time, and you're learning how to manage yourself and manage your money, right? Like day trading's, as much as people want to say it's you know, like chart analysis and study and this and that, which, you know, it is to some degree, it's more you, like you're more of the reason why you succeed or fail. Because if you have your trade setups, if you have your entry points, right, or your CISD, which is change in self directory or change in state of directory, like if you're able to analyze those and you're able to enter in at the right points, well, obviously then that would mean you're profitable. But if you don't have risk management, right, your price, if you make $50, right, and you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna keep holding, it's gonna keep going up, then next thing you know, 5 minutes later it tanks. Well, it doesn't matter how good your entry point was because you didn't take profit. So and I still struggle with this to this day. Obviously, you know, I'm getting better at it, but the point is that you have to see it as a long-term game, right? It's not going to be, and you know, the better you get, the more contracts obviously you can buy, and the better price points you can get in at. But in the beginning, right, if you're just starting out, you know, you have to have those two things in place, right? So investing is a very wide array, has a very wide array of possibilities. It's just about you learning, you know, different cycles and how liquidity works and how volatility works and how risk works, right? Because a lot of people fuck up because they're not aware of what's going on. Like, you know, for example, how many people sold a couple months ago during that fucking little conflict with Israel and Iran, right? I didn't sell shit. If anything, I bought more, right? So again, you have to understand where we are. You have to understand how world events, you know, will play into what's happening. Because a lot of people, when they also see the stock market go down, sometimes it's not even due to its actual, like, you know, like cycle as it just occurs, right? It's sometimes world events. You know, when Jerome Powell says certain things, the stock market goes, you know, a certain way, right? So it just depends on you know, what's happening sometimes, and that's not always the case, right? But I'm just saying, you know, when prices go super high or super low, it's usually due to news and not really, you know, actual like cycles of, you know, liquidity. So anyways, guys, that's it. That's all. I know I was kind of jumping all over the place here, but yeah, that's how you can begin investing, you know. And again, I'm not saying everyone should day trade. I think long-term investing is good for beginners, just to get your feet wet. Like that's how I started out, and that's how, I mean, I still, you know, invest long-term. But, you know, as you get more competent, you can start to learn how to day trade. You can start to learn how to swing trade. You can start to learn these other, these higher reward forms of investing, right? So, yeah, guys, that's it. That's all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe. If you guys have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them down below. And as always, I will talk to you guys soon. Peace.